My dad passed away a few years ago. So for the last 6 months of his life, he was really struggling. And when he passed away, he was like going like this in the room above, like a little kid having so much energy, and he was so happy. And it just reminded me, and it is the afterlife is like a party.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the channel within. I'm excited to be speaking with Dr. Laurence Brock today. Thank you so much for joining us. Hi,
Well,
Dr. Brock. Thank you for being here with me today.
thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So let's get started with your NDEs. Do you want to give us a little bit of context of your life before the NDEs?
Yeah. The so I live in New Jersey in the United States now, and I was spent my youth pretty close to here in north of New York City in Rybrook, New York. But I was living out in Colorado at the time, and I was working as a chef in a restaurant, and I came back to the Northeast to visit my parents. I drove with my friend who was my roommate, also a friend from home. So we both came back to visit our parents, and we found out about a party. So we went to the party, we were partying, and um, so I used my mom's Ford Bobcat, which was a little compact car that, now there's so many little compact cars. Back then it was unique to be that kind of car. But I bought because we drove back from Colorado in his 280Z Datsun 280Z, a fast, great sports car. Um, I was gonna leave my car at the party and go back the next day, more so I could go back and talk to the girl who was having the party, really, rather than because I was too drunk. But almost back to my parents' house, I realized my sister needed to use my mom's car the next day for work, so I went back. I remember going into the party to tell the young lady that I was going to take my car. I remember a little bit walking toward the door, and when I think of it, it's still so present in even though it was in 1976. So I was 22, I'm 71 now, so almost . And I don't remember leaving. Have some glimpses of walking on the pathway out of the house, which I didn't have for years. That just happened a couple of years ago. And then the next thing I remember, I was out of my body, looking down on my car that was so smashed. I had fallen asleep and crashed into a tree. And so the experience was, I mean, I definitely saw the car, I saw my body, I saw a police officer there. There wasn't, it was so much more of a feeling experience than, you know, information, like people say. Did it felt like I knew everything? Yes, but really what it was like, I didn't really need to know anything. So whatever it was in my, whatever those things are in our mind, that's like, oh, what about this? What about this? Was not there. It was just like, oh, everything's good. Um, so it was all white where I was. It was dark down there where the car was and the police officer in my body. And then behind me, there was a big circle of white with a full silhouette of a man in, there, like an energetic being kind of thing. And when I tell the story, it just takes 2 minutes, but it felt much longer than that. But it didn't feel like years, like some people say. But then the being behind me said, "You have to go back. Your father wants you to stay." And from the perspective of everything's good, I just went back into my body and then came to 3 days later in the hospital. In many ways, a very different person, but part of me was not different. That's for sure. Like when I think back, it's like things just kept happening to me that kept getting me like I need to be living this spiritual life. And
Can you give us examples of that?
probably one of the biggest things that happened, yeah. So first of all, I healed very quickly for the type of damage I had to my body, which I never really thought about. I was 22 and healed pretty quickly. But so I went back out to Colorado for a short time. I still like cooking and I like working in the restaurant, but it is a very partying lifestyle and it didn't feel that fulfilling. I had applied to go to the University of Colorado in Boulder, and then my mom kind of bribed me to come back to the Northeast and work in my dad's electrical contracting company, which I had, many years when I was younger. From the time I could walk, was around electrical contracting. And after work one day, someone showed up at my door without me really looking. I could joke around and say if this didn't happen, I would have just gone back to work and not even thought about this stuff. But I'm sure other things would have happened. But this woman showed up at my door and she said she was the sister of a friend of mine from Colorado who I had mentioned my experience to, not using the word near death experience and being very not sure even how to explain what happened.
Because in 1976, the term was newly minted, right? Near death
It was, but I
experience.
never heard of it. That
Yeah.
yeah, looking back, I guess. But she just said right away, my sister told me some interesting things about you, and I know someone who teaches about what happens after we die, and I want to introduce you to him. And I never even thought of what happened to me as dying, really, and maybe that was the first inkling of it. But she introduced me to this teacher, and I guess there's no turning back once you start on the spiritual journey.
So how did your family and friends take it? How soon did you start talking about it?
Um, I a little bit, and how soon? Um, Probably about 10 years after it happened, I told one of my good friends, and we weren't that close then, but when we were young, we were really best friends. We lived in different places as being kind of grown up then. And he just didn't, not, it just told, he had his father call me right away, like, and that kind of ended our friendship. I didn't really talk about, so uh, when I found out it was really okay to talk about it, I was so teaching a class at the University of Bridgeport, I guess about 6 years ago. And so I would go there once a year for some years and teach a class on mindfulness and meditation and the breathing exercise I developed for my doctoral treatise. And after one of the classes, the woman who arranged it for me, and she was walking me from one class to the next, she said she was teaching a class on death and dying or living and it was a class about traditions in different cultures about dying. And I had heard of a near death experience then, but I never thought that much about it. I didn't realize everyone wants to know about it. And I said I had a near death experience, and she was like, "Oh, you got to come talk to my class." And so I did. I recorded it on my, desktop, so the recording's not that good. But when I went home, I posted on Facebook, partially just reporting how my classes went and more for my friends and relatives than really putting it out there. But as soon as I did, so within minutes, I had literally 50 people said, I want to know more about that. And that's when I first realized it's totally okay to talk about it now, which is great.
Yeah, that's really nice. Now, the being
Yeah.
that you encountered,
Yes.
were you able to identify this being of light?
My understanding of this, so the guy that woman introduced me to was a Sufi sheikh. So the Sufis are the mystical sect of the Islamic religion. And so I had a lot of great experiences with him. But part of it was, just that he was Islamic, I was from a Jewish family. It didn't even matter to me. It didn't even cross my mind till years later when people, said something. But he started to talk to me first about Mary. And as soon as he did, he was talking about how open Mary was to God's love. And that described what I experienced in my near death experience. Then, as soon as he said Jesus, the words like, whoa, that was Jesus behind me. And I still know that, even something kind of happens energetically where that energy and loving comes in as soon as I say that. So
Because he
I,
mentioned his father thinks you should go back. So you,
yeah, the father was God, not my
yes,
father. Yes, he said,
yes.
your father wants you to go. Your father you have to go back. Your father wants you to stay. It was those exact words. And um, but at the time, it just seemed, people say, "Did you have a choice?" I didn't even cross my mind not to come back. You know.
And did you come back with any gifts, Dr. Brock?
Uh, yes, but it took me quite a while to really understand. One thing that definitely happened, I noticed, is when I would touch people, and it still happens, but I have like control over it now. My hands would become warm, and there were, now it only happens when I intentionally do that. But back then, and people they would feel the warmth, even if I just shook someone's hand and the things I really just stumbled across things happening where I was able to help people heal and kind of one is I prayed for someone one time, and I wasn't really such a big believer in prayer, to tell you the truth. And I remember in my mind I was being kind of sarcastic when I said I would, and this person got better, and it was like, again, I kept going, and all these cool things happened to me, and it's like, okay, I might as well surrender to who I am.
In terms of the healing, so after a
Mm.
while, you were able to control it and turn it off so that you can
Yeah.
manage your life better.
Yes, there's the part of being really sensitive. That's the other thing. I mean, I've always been very sensitive, but so sometimes the heat only goes on when I put my intention to it. The sensitivity, sometimes, it's just there, and I'm sensitive to things like, uh, yeah, I'm a very caring person. I guess, in one way, I'm naive and just really think good things about people, which is in there, but sometimes it's hard being a sensitive man, that's for sure.
I saw in one of your talks, you also mentioned that you did come back with some psychic abilities.
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I don't like to call them psychic, but because that implies kind of very mental thing, but it's like that. I mean, sometimes I know very specific things about people. Um, but really, since I was young, I was able to see colors around people. And
Oh,
until I was
wow.
in my mid-teens, I thought everyone could, because not that anyone ever talked about it. I also remember when I was young just thinking, like, why aren't people acting more loving? Like, because I can see that in people, but I didn't realize people weren't as consciously aware of it as I am. So I can help people heal, and I see things more, it's more about their path. Sometimes I do see things in the future. I normally don't tell people that, partially because usually it's not 100% thing going to happen. Um, but I do, yes, I get to see a lot of things. I get to know things about people, but it's very much focused on the healing as opposed to, some people like to test me about things I know, but it's the part of unfolding into God's love. And within there, there's help and happiness and abundance inside of you. That's really what I do. So there's so many things to see that when you're saying psychic, it's like seeing this thing, like a closed view as opposed to like a spiritual view. And what I see is like this. And, sometimes I'm just thinking, well, I don't like to share things about my clients, but sometimes I see things and I try to tell them. And, the way that I talk, and even now I talk very casually about it, I say to people, you should listen to me, because I've learned to listen to me too. Um, but yes, so I get to see all sorts of fun things and all sorts of yucky things too about people. Yes.
Yeah, but I do like the your perspective of not calling it or referring to it as psychic, but being open to greater possibilities. So that
Yeah,
keeps it wide open. I also heard you talk about reading autobiography of of a yogi really young. Can you tell
yes.
us this story?
Well, I was in high school. I wasn't that young, but I read it and
I
it
mean, no
left,
high schoolers are looking to read that, so that is still
well,
young, you know.
it is pretty young, but
Yeah.
yeah, it left an impression on me, but in a way that I read Herman Hesse books back then. It was a different time than it is now. So people, I was born in 1954, so it was in the 60s and early 70s, you know. Um, but I read Herman Hesse books. I mean, really, a lot of my opening to spiritual things happened from watching Star Trek, the original Star Trek, to tell you the truth. And um, again, yes, is it that usual? I don't know, but I know looking back, my life has just led me in this direction, and it's great. I mean, I can help people. As I said, when I'm looking more. It's kind of like I can see their life path and then what's blocking it and how to open it up more. It's not always, sometimes it is very much like that.
It feels like the creators of Star Trek definitely had some kind of download because a lot of
It seems like it.
many
Yeah.
NDEs will talk about how, I'm zooming through the cosmos like in Star Trek. So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
That it is, yeah. I mean, there's the two new Star Trek series, A Brave New World. No, that's something like that. And there's a new one, Starfleet Academy. That's great because they've advocated diversity in such a big way since the very beginning. And I read this thing about not too long ago about Uhura. I can't remember her name, the actor, but she was thinking of quitting the show, and Martin Luther King convinced her to stay on. And it's like such a cool thing because think having a black woman back then having such a prominent role in a TV show, but it just grown, yeah, so many great things. Right.
Absolutely. You got a chance to touch that universal energy, if you will. And,
Yeah.
if we strip the religions of all the noise, it seems like the teachings can be universal. How can we, who do not have near that experiences,
Yeah.
be able to touch that universal energy? Do you have
Yeah.
any tools for
Well,
us?
probably the easiest way is to have an appointment with me, to tell you the truth, because I can make it happen. And there's meditating and journal writing. Also, making sure you get some physical exercise helps quite a lot. But so in one way, compared to my near-death experience, I've had experiences that are way more amazing than that since
Can
then.
you
But
talk about that a little bit?
yeah. Well, when I do healings with people, I mean, the ones when people get physically better very quickly that's really phenomenal. Okay, I've had things with, so I'm gonna get, so you said autobiography of a yogi. I have my book, Autobiography of a Healer, and I know the person who helps me publish it, he chose that because, he knows I had a good experience with Autobiography of a Yogi. But in here, there's a bunch of amazing experiences I had with that Sufi sheikh and some of the healings. But sometimes it just, I don't know, when I'm working, it's just so cool all the time. And I've studied and I've had other teachers and let's see, sometimes it's like so many things going in my head, it's hard to pinpoint what it is. But let's see. So actually, this is kind of a funny thing, but someone asked me to do a little video about Ash Wednesday. And I've never been, it's not like Ash Wednesday ever reached out to me or anything like that, but I like to say yes when people ask me to do things like that. And I start to look it up, and it is, it's part of Jesus's process of getting ready for when he went for his spiritual sojourn. And I think that's kind of cool. So, and I think that's every day I meditate and journal write and do some physical exercise in the way of trying to and live in the way that makes it me more available for that energy. And I can do it. Like, when I'm doing this or working, it just happens naturally and it kind of flows through. And then in my regular life, it takes work because I have, you know, there's people that are, the way they are and all this stuff. And things happen. So it takes work. But let me think of one amazing. I'm trying to think of something that happened really recently that so something that happens I don't know how often, but I kind of get these initiations spiritually. And I'm not even sure where they come from. Well, sometimes I can have an idea, but something shifted in my work and in me, and it was see, I'm just feeling a lot of energy with that. And it was this very fine vibration. When I checked out about it, it ended up Archangel Uriel had something to do with it. And then, so I started exploring that and, ask for it when I'm meditating to see if I can get more information, but the information is more experiential. I started to notice that this fine vibration, I didn't know if it was really the best thing to have. That's not the way to put it, for healing people. So I used to work with electronic devices, and it's a thing that if an electronic frequency is too clean, our body can't take it in. It kind of resists it. So it has to be what's called dirty, which means there's the vibration and then a little bit of other vibrations around it, basically. So with that in mind, I was thinking, is this energy too fine of a vibration? A friend of mine mentioned something about letting the earth energy come in a bit. So I've been doing that and it's really, and I'm feeling it now. It's just so phenomenal and um, it's just really, really cool. So I could close my eyes because it just feels so nice. But, uh, you know, that's kind of abstract, but so it's just I did this meditation of letting this earth energy come up and bringing the energy down of the spirit. And I recorded it. I recorded a new one today because the other one wasn't so good.
That sounds pretty cool to let the earth and sky
Yeah.
meet.
And
What
then
is
there's our heart center and our Tantien in our pelvis. So it's kind of the higher centers in us and the lower and the physical centers coming together in that. So it's like these four sources of energy. It's really it's very strong and powerful and great. It feels nice. So,
Yeah. So since your background was Jewish, were you
yeah.
surprised to meet Christ up out there beyond the veil?
No, there was nothing. It just like everything was the way it was supposed to be. In one way that really sums it up. Like the whole world is good.
That's a
It
nice
didn't. No, when
summation.
I met the Islamic teacher, it didn't even cross my mind. Like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this or something like that.
Yeah, because like we said before, if you strip these religions of all the noise, the local rules and
Yeah,
regulations, they're all saying the same. The essence is the same, right? Um, are you afraid of dying?
I'm not afraid of being dead. I, definitely don't want to suffer and die, but the part of being in the spirit is really great. So my dad passed away a few years ago, and
Sorry. My
thank you.
condolences.
So for the last 6 months of his life, he was really struggling. And when he passed away, he was like going like this in the room above, like a little kid having so much energy, and he was so happy. And it just reminded me, and it is the afterlife is like a party. That's what it is.
That's very reassuring. So you were able to see that, feel that, him.
Yeah, see that. That was something I saw. So sometimes I see things. Sometimes I see things like it's in my imagination. Sometimes I know things. Sometimes I feel things. Sometimes I hear things. All of those things.
That's pretty neat. What is
Yeah.
the biggest lesson from your NDE?
That's a good question. Um, well, that. I think that things are good, that people are good, and it takes work to be good. And it, our so I do think meditate. I think the spiritual work is really important to do. My biggest lesson is just that there's something good in things, and when I'm caught up in, oh, paying the bills or, what my avid daughter in college, who's a great kid, but sometimes she's not always doing what I think she should do, it's a reminder that there's something good there, and that's a reminder that being in your loving is really the answer. And that's the best way to make life good.
And because this happened to you so young at 22, how did you
Yeah.
process all this, you know?
Well, first of all, I'm still processing it. And like I said, always am studying and learning. It's always more and more. So, people ask me, are you enlightened or whatever they say, I say, well, I'm in the process with that. And, you know, I I get to see and know a lot more spiritually than most people, but I know there's a whole lot more to go. And it's always keep going. It's always doing the work and, being of service, trusting. I mean, sometimes it's hard to trust people. They just seem so far off.
Yeah,
It's
for
in
sure.
process. How did it I got a certain amount, but like I said, I probably would have just gone back to work and ignored it if that woman didn't show up. I mean, that's what I did, and then it really turned my life around. And other things have happened where I keep meeting people that teach me and keep me spiritual, I guess you could say.
If there's someone who is at the edge of death, what advice would you give them?
Um, well, well, that everything is good. I mean, when you say that, so a lot of times I work with people so this is something that happened a while ago. It was a friend of mine from that I knew from the time I was very young, because where she grew up was like right down the street from where I grew up. I wasn't very close with her when we were younger, but her brother and my brother were best friends for years. And she had two brothers. I was friends with both of them. And uh, then it was funny. We ended up going to a high school reunion together because I don't even remember how we met, but we ended up being involved with similar spiritual studies. So we became friends later on. And then she got kind of sick. And it things just lined up. So she was in a hospital. I don't know if it was in Brooklyn or the Bronx. It must have been Brooklyn or Queens, actually. So Um, but I brought my daughter wanted to go see a Broadway show with some people that were not me. And one of them was a grown up that we know. And so I took her into the city, and I was going to just wait for a few hours while she went to the show and meet them for dinner after. And I looked up and I saw, so this friend of mine was in the hospital at this point, and I saw the subway was right there. It was like a sign to go see her. And I went there, and um, she was pretty sick at that point. And so I knew her mother. I knew her family because we grew up right near each other in a community that was very close. And I was there for a while. And then her brother came, I was good friends with. And but then her mother came, and her mother didn't want me to stay because there were only a certain amount of passes to be in the room. And this woman went from like hardly being able to move or open her eyes, to grab my shirt and said, "Stay," like in this loud voice, and her mom stepped back. But she asked me to work on her some, and I did. But it's like her family and even our friends, a lot of them are spiritual. Everyone's putting in this energy, oh, you shouldn't die. And I understand that, but this woman was ready to die. So I kind of cleared her energy field and helped balance her body. And I could see she started to leave her body, and I left, and she passed away a couple hours later. She was declared dead. But it was really an honor to be there and help her, because it is it is almost like fighting with your family when it's time to die. And a lot of times I tell clients, if they have a family member like that, I say, you got to go tell them it's okay for them to die. And I just know when it's time for them to do that, and almost usually within a very short time, the person will pass away.
Is it because of the energy you see in the
Uh,
person?
You
How,
mean what, how do I know that?
yeah.
That's more of a knowing thing than a seeing thing. Yeah. So there is knowing, seeing, feeling, hearing. But so my initial thing was the touch. So I had my hands that became warm and I started studying hands-on healing. That's when it became a real thing to me, even though I had studied with the Sheikh, the Sufi Sheikh for quite a while and learned a lot about healing. Then it became, I'm a very kind of kinesthetic person, so it became more real to me. Then even though I had some of the other things already, I realized going from that, which was the most, like, I mean, I could just feel things in people's body and, the energy. And then, I spent time. So I went to school, and part of what we had to do is like spend a month focusing on what we're hearing and hearing physically, but also hearing spiritually. Same with feeling, same with seeing. And this is a way to develop this clairvoyance or whatever you would call it to the other voyances or the other clairs, whatever you call them.
Yeah.
So, but now I just, I'm just open and any of them can happen. And you trust that it's coming in the way. It's a little frustrating when something comes in a way that's not mental because I don't know what to say about it always. But usually when someone's about to pass away and I know that, I know it.
Okay. What does a typical session look like? Because you mentioned that
Yeah.
being able to touch that universal being, we can do that with a session with you.
So I say a little prayer in the beginning. I do hold my hands up like this, which I started some years ago. A friend of mine said, "You're forgetting," because I started working on Zoom and on the phone. And the person said, "You're forgetting about the healing energy in your hands." And I thought, "Oh, you're right." And then I just, with that, it just kind of made me hold my hands up so I feel that energy. People will talk to me about all sorts of things, and um, sometimes I'll see something and say, well, I got to talk to you about this. But people generally know what's off in their life and they want it to be better. So then I kind of hold that energy around them. There's part of it of balancing the mind, the heart, and the gut together to work. And then, um, yeah, and what I can see spiritually. So then there's spiritual beings that come in to help. And it is like it's like painting a picture of someone and knowing that the picture is really beautiful and that people don't when it's kind of like we have different parts of the picture in us but we're taught to put it together a way that doesn't really work for us by school, by our parents, by churches or whatever it is. And then this is like, well, let that line up in a way that you're is really beautiful for you. And that is kind of what I do. And I see that. And then this light comes in over there and it just moves things there. But I'm usually talking to people about things psychologically. And it's a way to get them to get their mind in this spiritual game, really. And it's hard because in the highest levels of spirit, there's not much reference for the physical level. And we keep looking like, well, I need something, a signpost or something. It's like, no, this is just beauty and love. And that's it. And then it's like you let that go and it goes,
That's
that's so anyway, that's how my work is. And in one way, not defining it is kind of important because defining it is this. So I can talk to people from different religions. But I mean, I've studied all different religions, but it is how do you open up in this way? And people just get it and they start to feel it, and the light just starts to come in, and they go, wow, this just feels good.
yeah, that's pretty neat. Um,
Yeah.
I have three questions for you, Dr. Brock. What brings
Okay.
you joy and laughter these days?
Well, I'm dating someone I really like a lot. That so she brings me a lot of joy. My daughter also. Um, I like doing this. I like my work. I like to listen to comedy. I like to listen to music, and I go see those things in person quite a lot. My own spiritual journey.
What would you tell young Lawrence who's about to embark on this wonderful uh, journey called life?
Yeah, that is a good question. I don't know. So yeah, I that's like so when I this is somewhat about parenting is and but there's part of it of trusting that's inside each person. They know their spiritual path, and it's just a matter of them honoring and respecting that. So when you know, I would like to, you say, what would I say to a younger version of myself? Somehow convey that. But I've kind of known that that's the thing, even in the way that I started studying with an Islamic teacher, and even in my career, if my heart's in it, I'm there. If my heart's not in it, I just can't do it. I mean, so I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. Um, what final message or blessings do you have for those listening?
I do the spiritual work, and I think it is really helpful to have someone like me help you. And don't let your ego get in the way that you have to do it yourself. There's blessings that are out there that are available in so many ways. There's also a part that there's something that's in everybody that's really awesome and amazing, and just honor and respect that. I mean, I just not, when I look at people, I mean, I get to work with some really amazing people that are successful in so many different fields, and they don't quite get how awesome they are. They're so caught up in working, but so we have soul qualities, and when we can express them in a way in the world, it's really beautiful. But everyone has that in them. So that and meditate and journal write and exercise. Those are things.
How can people find you if they're looking
Uh,
to book a session?
My website is laurencebrock.com, and you can go on there and I have YouTube, Facebook, uh, I have TikTok. So I've been doing TikTok live and Facebook live uh, it, most days. The TikTok is at 10:30 a.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Eastern, and Facebook is at right after that, so at 11 a.m. Eastern and 8:30 p.m. Eastern. So that's a way to connect with me. And yeah, my phone number is 732-567-6388 in the United States. The best way is to text me. I normally don't answer my phone because I get so many, you know, spam calls, but if a text is the best way to get to me.
Thank you so much for
Great,
being
thank
here
you.
with me today, Dr. Brock.
You're welcome. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. And I hope everyone enjoyed this as much as I did.